Hey Gorls! Welcome back to our channel.
Welcome back to our channel.
Anyway, today we are going to go over a really important topic to us and what's really gonna bring a more serious note to our channel today.
So today we're going to be discussing gender. One of our subscribers left a comment on our first video asking us to elaborate more when I mentioned that I identify as trans-femme. So we're going to go over that a little bit. So we're going to start by kind of talking about how we identify, and then we'll go into it. We're also just list, or should we start by discussing gender in general?
Let's do gender in general. Okay,
yeah, we're
so
live editing.
Here we go, live editing. So there's sexuality, there's your sex, there's gender, and then there's your identity. So from what I understand, because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, a psychiatrist, sexuality and gender have a spectrum. So you don't have to be just a straight person, you don't have to be just a gay person, you don't have to only identify as male, you don't have to only identify as female. It's a spectrum. Your sex, which is what you were born with, does not equal your gender, which is what you identify as.
Yeah, so basically there's this really great diagram we could insert. It's called the genderbread person, and it basically separates how your gender is sort of your mental identity, your sexuality is who you are attracted to, your sex is your personal organs, and then your gender. The face you made. Fuck. And then your gender is, I said the gender, that was the first thing I said. Okay. Your gender is whatever. So basically they can all exist separately. It all exists in a spectrum. So you can be a cis person, and cis means that your sex, your biological sex, matches with a societal gender that is perceived to coincide with that genital. So if you have a vagina, the way that vaginas are, if you're not intersex and you have a vagina, then you're female, then you're cis. If you have a penis and you're male, biologically, then you're cisgender.
Cis! Not like S-I-S, C-I-S. That comes from the scientific term because when two things are the same, they're cis, and if they're opposite, they're trans. Which leads us to the next point, if you're trans. So if you were born as a male but identify as female, you would then be a trans female or trans woman. Or vice versa, then you'd be a trans man.
And I want to clear up some confusion about what the identity trans-femme means. I've gotten some messages online of people saying some pretty negative, uneducated things about my identity and saying that it's sort of like trying to be part of the community or something by saying I'm trans-femme, when in reality, being trans is like a mental state of mind. It's being trans by definition is not coinciding with the gender you are born with. The gender you're born with is not the way you feel. That's basically the definition if you actually look it up on Merriam-Webster, so we'll insert that somewhere. Very that. So with my identity, trans-femme just means that I exist on the feminine side of the spectrum, the more femme woman side, but I don't necessarily consider myself to be a full woman. I enjoy kind of still being queer and being trans. You can be trans and be queer, because it's separate from your sexuality, identity. It's like it's all interpersonal. It's different for everybody, girls. Like everybody's experience is different. Keep that in mind. So everybody is valid. Don't try to come for anybody's gig.
Ever.
If somebody says they identify something, let them be. If it doesn't hurt you, then just do your research. Stay in your lane. If you're a cis,
just stay in your lane in general. Like if Jupe comes up to me, she's like, I'm trans-femme, and I'm like, amazing, live your life. Or if I go up to Jupe and I'm like, I identify as queer. If you want to ask questions and be like, so what are your preferred pronouns? When do you want to be called what? Those are valid questions, but not to be like, so you're not gonna be X, Y, and Z because you don't do X, Y, and Z. You can't put gender in a box like that. That's not what it's for.
Let's talk about how people think that you can't be queer or be trans and do drag.
Stupid.
It's so
I think that's stupid. So to me anyway, drag it's an art form. So
it's not about being a woman.
It's not about, even though if you
look at her, she doesn't look like a woman.
I'm fish. So so the definition that I've come up about many a times is drag, dressing as a girl. But in the same token, there are some parties that I'm asked to come and drag, but not be Miss Toto. Be like the club kid Miss Toto with the things glued on my face and stacked on my head and everything else. And to me, that's still drag. Just because I'm not being a woman or impersonating Miss Toto, I'm still in drag. Or for Kurt Fowl, for example, he's always in drag, but it's not feminine woman drag. He's doing like REM numbers and like Kurt Cobain.
Art. It's art. It's anything. What Toto said in the first video, if wearing sweatpants is not your normal gig, whatever, and then you put on sweatpants, that can be drag to you. Like anything that you want to make drag is drag. It's your experience. It's your art. It's valid. You're valid. Do whatever you want.
You're valid.
Keep that in mind. We'll put it on the screen somewhere.
You're valid.
So yeah, now let's talk about our personal. I went over my label, my identity, Trans-Femme. What about you? So you mentioned queer, but let's talk about it a little more.
So for me, if like looking as a boy, like in my boy day gig, it's very easy to fit into that cis male role. And it's easier to just identify as a gay boy because I don't want to be like, oh, I'm queer. So that's a little bit on my fault, not trying to be more visible, but anyone who actually knows me knows that I identify as queer. And the only times that I get like a little, as a stickler about pronouns, is when I'm as Miss Toto and you're gonna call me he, or dude, or bro. That actually
that's always like the hetero cis boys that wanna like,
sup, bro? I'm like, yo, it took me fucking 2 hours to do my face, and you're gonna say dude or man. But it's like any other time you can say he, she, they, cis.
So your pronouns are fluid.
Fluid. Just
except when you're Toto.
Except when I'm Miss Toto. But like, and that's just something that I can clear up with somebody like in a quick little blurb. But looking at my past and how I've developed into who I am today, I've always been queer. Like when I was younger, I was always playing with Barbies and dressing up in like little dresses and stuff. And looking back, I had a book and it said, when I grow up, I want to be blank. And for the first like 5 years, I wrote mother or woman.
I remember that.
And my parents were like, our kid's trans. They were like, our kid's trans. And then,
because your mom's a child services worker,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
It's like, great.
And they were like, whatever. Like, if our kid's trans, our kid's trans. But then as I grew up, I realized I enjoyed both, especially using drag as an outlet to do the whole feminine aspect, but then in my day job, do the whole masculine aspect. I'm able to get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, very Hannah Montana, very that.
Very Hannah Montana!
And then with me, my identity, like I said, it's trans-femme. I prefer they, them, and she, her. Do not address me by he, him. That doesn't fly by me. I kind of just grew into my identity over time since I was really young. It's like the same Tussie trans girl story where like they wore their mother's heels, put on makeup, like felt weird about their body, looked at other girls and were like, why don't I have that? Like it was very that growing up. And then as I was like growing up, I went through like, oh my god, tell me if this happened to you too, where you like bi now, gay later, and then it's gay now, queer later, and then queer, and then I went to trans.
It's like
but
so
it's always like
a step.
Phases and steps. Well, not phases, steps you take.
Well, because each, like, so to me, in looking from my hetero goggles, it's bi is more accepted than gay, and gay is more accepted than queer, and calling yourself queer is more accepted than being trans. And that's stupid. All of it is stupid.
Yeah.
It's just let people identify as how they want to identify and how they want to express themselves.
But it's like a gradual growth thing. So if you're at a place right now where you have a certain label, do not feel that that label owns you or that you necessarily have to follow that label exactly. You can exist however you want. Things can change over time. Like I can identify as trans-femme now. Maybe down the line, like I'll be Gigi, like stay gorgeous, y'all. This is everything. My new movie, you know what I mean? Like that could be me. You have to accept that it's fluid, it can change, but you also have to respect people who feel concrete in their gender.
Yes, let them
If
be.
somebody says they're trans women, don't think that, oh, one day they're gonna change. If there's any parents watching, it's not a phase. We're saying with us personally, it's kind of become like a step-by-step kind of process. It's not always like that, so keep that in mind. And I think with that, we can basically wrap up, I think.
So if you have any questions for us, you can leave them in the comments, or if you don't feel comfortable doing that, you can DM either of us at Jupiter Velvet or the Miss Toto. But we'll answer anything. I mean, I think we're pretty nice. No, I'm kidding.
We're nice people.
We're really good. So if you have any questions or you're not feeling comfortable, feel free to reach out to us, and if we can't handle it, we can pass you on to someone else who can handle it better than us.
Yes, and by the way, there's a dog here, so if you hear that like licking sound, there's a beautiful fucking poodle. We'll probably insert a picture of it. He's gorgeous. So and he's trans.
Stay gorgeous. Okay, stay gorgeous. Thanks for watching, Gorls.
Bye.
We'll see you next time.
Oh, very bad.
Messy.